March 25th, Thomas Clarkson. Recognizing a need is often God's call for us to do something. Thomas Clarkson was 24 years old when he won a writing contest on an essay that explored whether it was lawful to buy and sell human beings. After he accepted the award, on the road back to London, he couldn't stop thinking about the greed and arrogance and the lack of respect for humanity that drove people to kidnap and sell other people. He had entered the writing competition to get attention, but his research changed his life. How could it be right to own fellow beings, each of us created in the image of the same all-powerful God? Something had to be done. Now. He thought more and more about the horror of being ripped away from your parents, from the life you knew, crammed into the rat-infested hold of a ship for weeks at a time, and taken on a dangerous journey. Slaveholders could afford to let a lot of their cargo die. They had a terrific markup. The man or woman or girl or boy got dumped in an unfamiliar land and became another person's property to use any way he wanted. Thomas recoiled from the brutality of slavery and felt driven to see enslaved people everywhere set free. He wanted the evil business stopped. Clarkson got so agitated about the atrocities being done to human beings, he had to stop, dismount, and pace. Finally, grief overtook him. "I sat down, disconsolate, on the turf by the roadside," he wrote, "and here it forcibly occurred to me that something should be done to put an end to such cruelties." Someone needed to do something. He was sure about that. But he had heard little public discussion about the evils of slavery. Nobody talked about it. He mounted his horse and continued his journey, no closer to a solution than before. Weeks passed, and still Clarkson couldn't shake the desire for somebody to step up and take the cause. The thought of doing something himself had crossed his mind, but he was only 24. What could he do? Yet, the moral question swirled in his mind. How could a Christian nation allow such horrors to continue? The public had to be told, had to be educated. Perhaps his essay could do that small thing. That November, 1785, Clarkson translated his essay from Latin to English. He added information he had learned since writing it, and he tried to write in a way that would impress the reader with the need to do something. From this moment forward, he dedicated his life to eradicating slavery in Great Britain. He wrote books and smaller works to educate people about what human beings were doing to other human beings. And he got the plan of a slave ship named Brooks and hired someone to draw an image of how the slaves were packed in. Depending on weather, the voyage could last 6 to 13 weeks. Clarkson published the drawing and took copies of it with him when he spoke in public. For 61 years, from the day of his commitment to the day of his death, he spent his money, his time, and his health on behalf of enslaved people. He traveled a total of about 45,000 miles to spread the word and to build and encourage a network of anti-slavery societies, people ready to do something about the evil. Together, they delivered 777 petitions to Parliament and demanded the end of the slave trade. In 1807, Parliament outlawed the slave trade. In 1833, the Slave Abolition Act ended slavery altogether in Great Britain. Thomas Clarkson's life could be summarized in the words of Jesus found in John chapter 17, verse 4. "I glorified you on earth, having accomplished the work which you have given me to do." What issues grieve and consume you? Is God calling you to a first step to deal with that? Recognizing a need is often God's call for us to do something.
Well, hey man, my name is Eric Bloom. I'm one of the pastors at Landing Place Church in Commerce City, Colorado. Thomas Clarkson, he's a new one for me. I knew of John Newton, William Wilberforce, but really didn't know much about Thomas Clarkson. And after watching this video, There are many things that I could take away from and be inspired by and even challenged by, but the one that I'm most challenged by is that phrase, 61 years. That he started this whole thing when he was 24. It did not see the fruition of his work and his fellows' work, God's work, until 61 years later. I don't know about you, but when I watch these videos, sometimes I can be like really inspired, but feel this tension within me, like, that's so amazing. And here am I sitting in this mundaneness. Maybe things in my life aren't going as quick as I want them to. But when I think of the reality that 61 years of faithful, mundane obedience and perseverance, so many non-exciting and challenging and discouraging days, and maybe even self-doubt filled days and years, and yet this man still continued to persevere. And that's what I'm most challenged by. And that's my challenge to you, is how does God want you to continue to lean into the faithful perseverance of the work that he has given you, or the tasks that he has given you, to embrace the presence of the Lord in the midst of the mundane, and to continue to pursue that work even when it's not exciting.